Hi, everybody. For those jumping in, we'll give everyone a second to populate here. It looks like a bunch of people are jumping on. I am really excited about today's webinar with the veteran community Shark Tank founders. We have some amazing companies here, Riveter and Stella Valle, who are going to talk to us about their experiences. But first, I'm going to kick off with just a quick intro about myself and Alice and what we do, and then I'll turn it over to these incredible founders. I am Carolyn Rods. I'm the founder and CEO of Alice. Alice is a digital platform that helps connect founders to resources that will help them grow and scale. And it's all tailored to an entrepreneur's location, stage of growth, industry that they're working in, demographic, and then specific needs that they have at that moment, and then curates the resources that are relevant to them. So we are really excited. We prioritize serving the veteran community, so today is particularly exciting for us in meeting these wonderful founders and hearing about their experiences, and then really helping those of you who are interested in learning more about Shark Tank and also more about the retail space, understanding kind of some of the ins and outs of that and the very transparent behind the scenes of what that whole experience looks like. We are partnering with more Cuban companies for this series, this After the Bite series. We've done one webinar already, which you can check out on Alice, and we'll be sharing the link to that. And then this will be our second of that series. And what we love about Mark Cuban companies is just the diversity of their portfolio. They have lots of female founders, veteran founders, diverse founders, and so it's just a really great cross-section of what entrepreneurs actually look like. And then we'll also be sharing a collection on how to pitch to Shark Tank, so some resources that can be helpful to you, and then also including the learnings from this group today. So checking on that, we'll be sharing that shortly. So I want to kick it off with just intros. Why don't we start, Paige, with you? Why don't you tell us about yourself and your company and
Sure. So my name is Paige Walker. I am the CEO and co-founder of a brand called Stella Valle. Our brand was founded by my sister Ashley and I in 2009. We both went to West Point, and Ashley served active duty in the Army. And actually, when I was about to graduate from West Point, I was medically retired right from West Point, so I didn't serve in active duty Army. But that really inspired us to start our company together, Stella Valle. So I don't know if you guys are familiar, but when you graduate from a military academy, you have a minimum obligation to serve in the military. And so I was told a month before graduation I wasn't going to be able to do that and needed to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And so my sister encouraged me to start Stella Valle with her. And it is right now we specialize in jewelry, but it's a fashion brand that really inspires women to pursue their dreams despite their background, and to go after what they want in life.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Lisa, you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Lisa Bradley. I am the CMO of Riveter and co-founder. Cameron and I started the company back in 2011 following multiple military moves. We were both military spouses, and we actually both were not prior military kids or had much experience with the military. So when we became spouses, it was kind of a definitely an eye-opening experience. I had moved 6 times in 4 years at that point. So I was just really starting to realize that having a long-term career for myself was something that was very difficult for military spouses to obtain. And so when we both landed in Dahlonega, Georgia, we said, this is a conversation that's happening with so many other military spouses. Let's do something about it rather than just be part of the problem. So we launched our Riveter, which is a canvas and leather handbag company, in Cameron's attic back in 2011. So the idea behind the company is providing income and mobile opportunities to military spouses across the country. So they produce our sub-assemblies from home wherever the military takes them, and then we buy those parts and pieces from them, and they drop ship it out to North Carolina where we assemble the product. So I'll pass it over to Cameron to give a little background on herself too.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'm Cameron Cruz. As Lisa mentioned, we met each other in Dahlonega and started our Riveter with this shared, conflict and issue of not being able to find sustainable income as military spouses. I graduated with a master's in architecture in 2011. And then a couple months later moved to Dahlonega, Georgia, which if anybody's been to Dahlonega, Georgia, it's the middle of nowhere, mountain town. Definitely no architecture going on. And that was the thing that Lisa and I connected on, was we were so excited to work and be a part of our community and plug into something professionally, and there wasn't anything there for us. So we jumped in and we haven't looked back since. And we now have a 7,000 square foot fab shop where we put everything together. We've got a flagship retail store, and we're kind of conquering what it means to make and sell handbags, which is something that we never thought we would be doing.
That's amazing. So I saw this stat that military families move on average every 2.9 years. That unemployment for military spouses is 4 times the national average. So you all set out to give yourselves independence, to help military spouses get more flexible income. How does all of that work? It seems like building a company when you have mobile lifestyles would be extraordinarily difficult. What does that look like in reality?
Well, for me, it was making that part of our business plan. And if you set it up that way, then you're more likely to have the success of the mobile aspect of it. And so a big part of it for me was the loss of identity. Every time we moved, I was finding a new career, I was finding new friends. There was really nothing consistent in that. And so we thought, before we even decided to make canvas and leather handbags, we had the business model, came up with the business model. So it was 2 of us in an attic, but we knew that we wanted to be a national network of decentralized manufacturing for our handbags. And that was really part of the business plan from the beginning, which is what I think separates from other businesses that have difficulty in being a mobile company. And so that was a big part of who we are and what we stand for is no matter what situation you're in, what is the solution for the problem? And being able to have a career and a family too is a big part of our opportunities for our riveters. And our riveters are the military spouses located across the country.
Great, thank you. And then Paige, for you, in thinking about just your decision to pursue entrepreneurship in the first place, how did serving the military impact that decision and prepare you for it?
Yeah, so I was 21 when we started Stella Valle, and I think I was somewhat young, which made me a little naive of what it was to start a business. But coming from West Point and having the military background, it really prepared me on the planning side and being super organized and disciplined. And obviously you need that as an entrepreneur. So as we started to, build the business and started, my sister and I, we both got full-time careers outside of starting the company, to kind of make sure that we could support ourselves and get outside experience, as we went into building our own business. So, we worked our full-time jobs, and then every night and weekend we would work on building and growing the company. And I would say over that period of time, I really just learned that my passion was for the company, and it wasn't for anything else. And that's where I knew I was an entrepreneur at heart. So I took the leap of faith. And then I left and quit my job about 2 years in. But it was really that preparation and planning from the military that prepared me to be an entrepreneur.
So let's talk a little bit about this whole Shark Tank experience. Can you all walk me through, just from the very start, what that was like, how you ended up on the show, and how you even considered applying for it? Yeah,
so I'll start. So when I decided to quit my job in really go full-fledged into the business. I knew that we needed funding to grow our company, and we were so small at the time. We had only had product out for a year, and it was really selling to basically family and friends. Ashley and I have another sister, and she was watching this show. It was like season 2, and I was talking just with her about me going to banks, but we didn't really have enough revenue to get a loan at that point in time, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So she was like, well, I really like this show Shark Tank, and I think with your story, you'll have a great shot of getting on. So I literally sent an email on abc.com, like, you can write, I think, a 300 blurb about your story. And then I got a call back the following week. And then that kind of started the whole process for us.
I love it. It's always nice knowing that those online forums actually work. That's always a big question.
They actually are.
So, and then Lisa and Cameron, how about you all?
Yeah, ours was, I mean, it's all the same. Like we're a small, tiny company, and we were making it work. You know, our revenue was supporting our growth, but we knew that at some point, you know, to make it to the next level, we were going to have to get out there. We didn't know it was going to be a stage like Shark Tank, but when that opportunity presented itself, Lisa and I took a long moment, heart to heart. Is this something we really want to do? Put ourselves out there and be that vulnerable. You know, being an entrepreneur was never something that I thought I was going to be. I had no idea. At the time, I was like, we have no idea what we're doing. There's no way we can go up in front of these sharks and pretend like we do. But it really forced us to, you know, decide what the path was for our company, decide what made us different, and how do we communicate that, and how do we plan for the future. So, I mean, it was probably one of the most terrifying things we've ever done professionally. But I don't think I'd ever go back and change it.
Yeah, considering the risk of it, I mean, obviously there's high hopes that you'll get funding, but there's also this massive risk of not, and you're doing it in front of tons of people. What does it actually feel like when you're on the show pitching, like right before those moments when you walk out?
Yeah, it's kind of funny for us specifically. We're kind of always going back and forth on, you know, do we really want to do this? Is it best for our company to grow this way? And so I think the good news is that we had each other to kind of, if I was fearful about it, Cameron's like, let's do it. We can totally rock it out. And then if it flip-flopped, then I was that voice of, we can for sure do this. But it was funny, like the couple weeks before, I was just so not sure that this was the right thing. And Cameron's like, we're doing it. It's going to be fine. And then the minute before we walked on, that's when I was like, we totally have this. And I was like, all ready. And Cameron's kind of like, oh my gosh, we're about ready to walk down.
Remember my name. Lisa's like, yeah, we're good. And I'm like, I don't know what we're doing.
I think that's the value of co-founders. I don't know, Paige and Ashley, will do that for you all too. I feel like every time, like, you having somebody who balances those up and down in general is so incredibly valuable.
I mean, and running a business as well. It's always that balance that's kept us going. So,
absolutely.
Let's jump to the idea of co-founders for a minute, because I want to hear. So, Paige, you work with your sister.
Yeah.
How is that in terms of just? I'm sure there's like all kinds of complexities that come with working with family, but both good and bad. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and what it's like working with someone so close to you?
Yeah, for us, I think it makes it a lot easier because since we are family and we're kind of made up of the same, just everything, our beliefs are the same. We just see eye to eye on everything. And I think that, co-founding a business with a partner is really hard. And it takes a lot of trust and loyalty. And, I'm honestly amazed just knowing what I know working with my sister at partnerships where you aren't family, like how you can succeed. And I give Lisa and Cameron so much credit because it is really hard to run a business with someone, but I'm fortunate that she is my sister, and we always put family first and business second. And we've had that role kind of from the start, that there's no business decision that can come between our family. So that's really been easy for us, actually, given that we are family. So it's helped us.
And Lisa and Cameron, how did you all decide that this was the right partnership, and just learnings along the way in terms of being co-founders?
Our business marriage is good. I mean, I think when Lisa and I met in Dahlonega, there was something that clicked between us. I mean, we're different enough, but we speak the same language. You know, like she's the PC, I'm the Mac, she's the spreadsheets. I get more watercolory. And so, you know, there's just enough balance there between our skill sets and our personalities that it's always worked out. And I think like any marriage, business, or you know, relationship, that it's all about communication. And the thing that's crazy is, you know, Lisa moved probably less than a year after we started the company. Lisa and her family had to obviously make a move, as military families do. And so that really forced us to understand our roles within the company and get very specific, which I think helped us early on.
Mm-hmm. You know, I would also say that it's interesting because what made Cameron and I click so much was just, like Cameron was saying, was the differences between us, and how I would take one thing and she would take a different skill set. I think that trust and loyalty is number one, though. I think from the get-go, that was always first, and then we're both really stubborn. So there was no way that we were gonna fail by means of quitting, because that's really, in my opinion, like really the only form of failure is just quitting. And that was really what got us through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship.
What advice would you give to other founders considering bringing on a co-founder, in terms of just qualities that you should look for, red flags to be aware of?
Mm-hmm. But you know, what's funny is we heard that so much early on, or heard, you know, never have a co-founder. You know, those partnership situations are so hard. And I would say, you know, make sure that you know the person prior to starting, but we didn't know each other at all. We just completely dove into this with very little time knowing each other. And so all the advice that I think that most people would have given me, we've kind of actually done exactly the opposite. And I can't imagine having a different business partner or co-founder. So I think you have to go by gut feel sometimes and just know that if it feels right.
So best advice, don't listen to advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go with your gut for sure.
Mm-hmm. Paige and Cameron, what about you all in terms of advice to give others?
I mean, we bootstrapped it. So when Lisa and I started, you know, we put a couple $1,000s on a credit card. Well, we each put in a couple $1,000s. Some of it was credit card early on. It wasn't all at the same time. So the risk that we were investing and what we were investing, you know, it was minimal at first. It was really just our time, and we were kind of risking and investing our future. So we did that together. So when we were building this thing, you know, it was like it wasn't like we started off with $300,000 and stakes were way up here and we didn't know each other and we didn't have any contractual language to back this thing up. And so it was this very organic process. So I think that anytime you have a partnership, that relationship has to mirror and be complemented with the risk that's involved. I think that was also something that, you know, it was very natural.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Lisa touched on it earlier with having a partner, when it seems to be like when one person's kind of down and doubting or questioning kind of where you're at in the company or a problem at hand, that the other one feels on a high and can pick the other one up, and then kind of vice versa. So I know that we've had a lot of those moments over the course of our journey, and I honestly think if I didn't have a partner at some points when I was down, I might have given up. But I had her there to kind of pick me up through those times. So I do think that having a co-founder is super helpful. But again, obviously it has to be the right fit because it's not an easy journey.
And how do you think all of your personalities, in terms of just the actual Shark Tank pitch and preparing for that, really helped you through that experience, both in preparation and leading up to it, and then actually on camera, and then everything happened afterwards?
Yeah, for Cameron and I, we both split the company. And so I was kind of more the numbers on the business side. She was more numbers on operations. And I would say the biggest piece of advice that I can give anybody going into Shark Tank is know your numbers. If you don't know them in and out, I mean, we knew every number down to how much a handbag costs down to the rivets. And so that's really what can make a difference in the tank is really studying that. If you spend like 80% of your time just memorizing your financials, I think that'd be time well spent.
Yeah, knowing your numbers and having a plan of how you're going to grow the company, because obviously they're investors and they want a large company so that they're, getting a reward from it. So just having a plan of how you're going to build a large company. So I think you need to know your numbers and then have the plan. Those are the two key items. And I know for Ashley and I, preparation was key to victory for us. I mean, we were season 4. We watched every season prior, 2 hours, every episode. We wrote down every question that the Sharks ever asked any entrepreneur, and we figured out how we would answer them. We did mock-ups of where they could pigeonhole us and where they could take us down. And we basically had a plan for everything. And then we split out like they did of who would answer what. And a lot of times we had people after the show asking us, like, it just seemed like you guys were reading each other's mind of who would answer what, and you weren't talking over each other. And we're like, yeah, that was all planned. So yeah. It's just about planning and preparing, knowing your numbers and how you're going to grow the business.
Yeah, I even think that one of the Sharks asked a question to Cameron and I answered it because it was in my realm of the questions that I was going to answer. So it's the prep is so important. We did a couple mock tanks and I think those were really valuable. In fact, we had memorized our scaling plan completely and we went into a mock tank with a lot of investor lawyers actually that are very much in this space. And they didn't really like our scaling plan. So we went back and completely redid our whole entire plan for the future. And so that meant re-memorizing all those numbers, which I think that was why I was most nervous those last weeks before the tank. But it was really good to go through that. And I honestly think that even that mock tank, they were more fierce sharks to us than I think the real tank. So it was really good practice.
How did that experience change the long-term vision of your company in terms of thinking big? Did it shift your vision about what you could build and the potential of what you could become after going through that?
Oh, absolutely. And I even say if we didn't get the opportunity to actually pitch, or if we hadn't gotten the deal, that just the whole prep for Shark Tank, knowing that you're going to be going on national television with some of the best business leaders in our country, that was so worth just the ability to look up out of the weeds and look at the future, having conversations about finances and how we scale our company. It was the push that we needed to start looking up rather than down.
Have you all pitched to other investors outside of Shark Tank, either before or after?
Not us.
We actually have we've talked to like other venture capitalists after Shark Tank.
And how was that experience different?
I mean, it's not like the TV aspect of it. There's still the preparation for it. And so, I mean, it's very similar in terms of that and having your business plan and your numbers and your business model, your financial models, all of that is very similar. It's just kind of different in terms of, being grilled on national TV and not having the pressure of messing up on camera. So.
The whole world watching your pitch.
Exactly.
What was the biggest surprise of the whole experience? Like one thing that you didn't expect?
The Sharks to come out and say that we they thought we knew what we were doing and that we maybe didn't need them. That was like, I could have followed over Dad right there.
And then, how about Lisa and Paige?
I mean, I think it was very similar to what I expected. I think that I was surprised too. Similarly, they made a comment right after our pitch that we had one of the best pitches they had seen, and we were so well prepared, which then before we started the Q&A, that kind of gave us a sense of relief, and we could relax a little bit. So I was surprised at how inviting they were, and I think it had a lot to do with being veterans and them just giving us an initial level of respect, which I thought was very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say that as well. I just think that all the Sharks have so much respect for veterans, and I do think that was one of the reasons why we were more likely to go on to the show, was because we were military spouses and we worked really hard at creating a business around a lifestyle that is difficult. And so I think that they saw that and also realized that being military spouses and creating yourself a future is exactly what they did when they started their businesses, as well as starting something really small in an attic or in a garage. And I think they really saw pieces of them in what we were doing.
Do you think that mission component matters for anyone pitching on Shark Tank? How do you think that weighed into their decision, or would weigh in for others?
I mean, mission did a lot for us. It does a lot for us because it's our value proposition. So it's what makes us different. I think the biggest thing is whether or not it's a mission or something customer specific or industry specific, you have to have something that makes you different and puts you above the rest. Otherwise, why are you relevant?
Mm-hmm. I want to just do a quick shout out to everybody listening in. We are taking questions at the end, so you'll see a Q&A button at the bottom. Looks like a couple of you are already dropping some questions in there, but please continue to share those, and we'll be answering those in just a moment here. So let's see. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, afterwards. You guys got this money. You walk off the stage. What was the impact, the immediate impact to your company, and how did you prepare for that?
Yeah, so when you, the following day, I think it was 7 a.m. in the morning, I had an email from Mark Cuban's financial guy asking for all of our financial statements and our investment plan. So that actually made it real. So now, I mean, when you go onto the show, it isn't official until you finalize the contract. So I think a lot of people don't know that. So it's basically like a gentleman's handshake on the show. Afterwards, they do their due diligence to make sure what you revealed on the show is legitimate, and also to review your investment plan. So I've heard that about 30% of the entrepreneurs that go on and they make a deal are only the ones that go through, about 30% of them. So afterwards, we actually had a 6-month process of working with, we have both Mark Cuban and Lori Grenier, so working with both of their teams to prove our investment plan, that we had the right business model and strategy to grow the company with their investment. And it was 6 months after that we actually closed the funding.
Lisa and Cameron,
yeah, and for us, I think that one of the best things that happened from Shark Tank was the credibility that it gave us. So much like Starbucks, which they didn't recreate the cup of coffee, they created an experience around that. What Shark Tank did for us was give us credibility around our manufacturing model. So a lot of people prior to Shark Tank said, a decentralized manufacturing, that's really expensive. Why would you do it that way? And we do it that way because we know the value that it provides a really amazing group of Americans and being able to have something for themselves throughout moving with the military. And so it really gave our manufacturing model credibility. And then we also, just the exposure and the opportunity to tell our story across the country was so vital. I think what we did differently than a lot of companies, because a lot of Shark Tank companies are manufactured overseas, and you can kind of just, I know it's not as simple as just calling up China and asking and ordering more, but for us, it is a really intense manufacturing timeline. So I actually think that being in back order actually made our products probably more desirable, because people really realize that there's only so many of these handbags that can be made. And so we actually had shipping windows that went out 6 months past our airing. And we just really were upfront with our customers about the timeline that it took to receive their product after ordering on the night of airing. And we had a really great customer service reaction from our customer service, just opportunity in general. Whereas a lot of other Shark Tank companies, I think, had a lot of blowback from long shipping times.
How hard was that as small businesses dealing with that initial spike in sales? And then I imagine there's some sort of tapering off from that. What does that do to resources and just staffing up for that, or making sure?
I mean, it's really hard as a small company to have those types of peaks, because for us, we had to go all the way back to the variable costs of making our product. And then, so you have this huge spike, and then and then it goes back down to normal levels. Whereas if there was a more sustainable across the board revenue stream than just up and down. So it makes it hard planning for a small company, but it's one of those things that gets you on the map. And as Cameron said, I wouldn't ever do it differently.
Yeah. I think for us, the hardest part was that we had a lot of opportunities presented to us that weren't probably right for our company for a long-term strategy. But at the time, you're young and you want to act on those opportunities, and you do sometimes. And so sometimes it veers you off the wrong path. So I think that was probably the hardest part for us, was just getting thrown a bunch of opportunities, and you're so eager as a young entrepreneur, you want to act on those opportunities and take advantage of them when they're probably not the right long-term fit for you. Especially for us. I mean, I know us and our Riveter, we are different than some companies that go on to Shark Tank, since we're building brands. You have to be a little bit more strategic, especially for us. I mean, we don't have our own retail store. We are e-commerce and wholesale. So where we place our product is really important for how our brand grows. So that was one thing that I think was one of the hardest challenges for us after Shark Tank.
So how do you decide within your teams what to say yes to and what to say no to, and whether it's worth the investment? Because Shark Tank, for example, it sounds like is a massive time investment on the front end and pretty risky. I mean, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to get all the way through that investment decision, right? You're getting on the show, but then getting a yes, and then it sounds like actually getting, the deal signed. What do you factor in to weigh out whether it's worth it or not on the front end?
There's a lot of different parties involved for us. So, I mean, all the way from manufacturing to retail, marketing, finance. I mean, you've got to have strong roundtable, conversations about, big decisions like that, which I think is one of the hardest lessons that Lisa and I have learned being young entrepreneurs, not having had real jobs really before our Riveter. We're learning how to lead and how to grow companies and scale companies and do all of the things all at the same time. So there's a lot of things that we probably now would do differently, make different decisions. But yeah, I think it's one of the most difficult things is to keep everybody in the loop and make decisions like that on the regular. I don't really have an answer for how we make those decisions. I don't know if you do, Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we actually were a remote working company from the beginning too. So that definitely threw complexities onto the company. I mean, we literally work on Zoom all day, every day, or at least I do, because I'm remote from the company. But that also had its strengths as well. It really got us to go deep into our areas of the business. I think, just like Paige was saying, there's so many things that get thrown at you, and you're eager, and you this was after Shark Tank, just because so many more opportunities were brought to us from that national platform. And until we had the opportunity to really create that long-term plan, we would take a whole bunch of little bunny trails off of the main plan. And now that we have very specific scaling and specific people in front of different parts of the organization, you're really able to make sure that you stay on the right path and the path that's helping all the different departments.
Have you found resources within the military community that have been helpful as you've continued to grow, or is there assistance there that's been of help, or just even the community itself that's been supportive to you as you've grown?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a very tight and strong military community, and it's all kind of what you want to get out of it and make out of it. So, I mean, specifically for our company, there's not a lot of people that are military that go into fashion or jewelry specifically. It's just they're kind of opposite. So, but there are a lot of people in other areas that we need to utilize that come from the military, like finance and operations and those types of areas. So we have one of our largest business mentors. He's also a West Point grad, and we go to him for a lot of advice. And so, I mean, I think it's as much as you want to utilize, your military resources, they're there for you. And I think military people are always there to help as much as you need them or want them. So it's helpful. It's a helpful community.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, just as a note to anybody listening who's part of the military community, we do have quite a few resources on Alice. Like I said, this is a community that we really prioritize in terms of supporting. So if there are things that you need or opportunity, grants and awards and all kinds of things that are available, those are updated regularly. So it's a great place to check as well. So thinking about, I guess, big picture, what's next? You've got this investment, you have some brand awareness through the show. What's the next kind of big move for your businesses?
Lisa's pup's always in the background. I mean, for so long, the answer to that question, our episode aired in 2016. And I think for like the last 2 years, the answer to that question is just do what we do more efficiently. From an operations standpoint, get smarter at working smarter, not harder. So like Lisa was saying, we've just now gotten to the point where, it's taken us 2 years to really get a strategic vision going and start to really execute it. So there's huge long-term, like big stroke plans, really.
Yeah, I would say similar for us. We just built out really our 5-year strategy, and it has exponential growth in it. And we're now, we actually aired on Shark Tank in 2013, and it's kind of taken us that long to figure out really who we are as a brand, get the product right, manufactured right, positioned right, pricing right, get the supply chain ready to go to do for mass market and really huge growth. So the company's positioned really well now, and we're working on our retail partnerships that are the right fit for our 5-year strategy. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And it's a really exciting time for the brand. So I think after Shark Tank, sometimes it takes you a little time to figure it out because so much is thrown at you and you're growing really fast. You have so many opportunities. And then once it all kind of settles down, you figure out and hone in on what you really want to be as a business and what's working for you. And then you can kind of reset for that growth. At least I know that's for us, kind of what happened.
And Paige, you've worked with some large retailers like Bloomingdale's and Target. how has that experience been, and how did you even land those deals?
Yeah, so both were relatively organic. Actually, our Bloomingdale's opportunity started just at our local Bloomingdale's, and then kind of grew from there. Given I loved fashion and I shopped a lot in my past, I just kind of built a relationship with the local manager there, and she liked our product and our brand and brought us in about a year into us starting the company. And then we did really well, and then started doing multiple events at all different Bloomingdale's. And then Target was just another one where we reached out to the buyer and had a meeting, and we did a designer collaboration with them where we launched in 975 of their locations across the country for about a 12-week period. So they were all great kind of for us at the point in time when we did those partnerships. But right now our focus is a little more about independent retailers. So like your local mom and pop retailer on your main street in your town, that's kind of our focus, because they really help share your story about your brand and get your message out to the customer, the end customer. So our focus is really on that smaller retailer actually now, and not the larger retailer. You really have to have a large brand name when you go into those big box retailers, because your product has to sell on its own. They don't have typically that personalized experience with their end customer. So if someone doesn't know your brand and they're just going into Bloomingdale's, you have to basically be able to sit on a shelf and sell for yourself. And we just weren't at that point in time as a brand when we went into there, and we've kind of learned that over time. So a lot of people think like landing the big box retailer is like their ticket and that's it, and that's not really how it works. I mean, for some here and there, maybe they have success, but generally, you have to be pretty established when you get into them to just sell on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lisa and Cameron, you all have a brick and mortar operation. What have you learned through that experience, and what are the opportunities and challenges that come with that?
Right. We sell predominantly online, but we also have the brick and mortar store, our flagship store down in Southern Pines, North Carolina, which is a great location because of the tourism that's in that area. And it's a very patriotic part of our country, and it really resonates well with our story and what we're doing for military spouses. We've had a lot of learned aspects from brick and mortar. We did a pop-up in Bethesda, Maryland, in a mall setting, and that was a huge learning curve for us, just from going from like a boutique brick and mortar store to the hours of a mall and staffing it, and people going to a mall for those brands that Paige was just explaining that really sell themselves. They're going there for a specific product, not a unique gift or product that you really need to be able to sell behind it. And so we just realized that the mall setting during that pop-up wouldn't be something that we'd be doing in the future. And so it's all these things that when you go on Shark Tank as a young company, and it's really, that's the companies that are going on Shark Tank is that early phase, and you just haven't gone through these learning curves yet. But then you also have a huge amount of scale that happens during that time frame. It really makes for a unique scenario of learning as you go, as well as scaling. And, I don't know the specific statistic, but I know that a lot of companies have a really difficult time with that scaling. And then also the learning that goes along during that time frame too. So definitely learned a lot about brick and mortar. The boutique space in Southern Pines has been really great for us though, and opportunity for the community to be completely surround our brand, and we're really a big part of that community there.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm going to take some questions from the audience. If anybody has any more, now's your time to add them. We have a question from Pauline asking if you can share recommendations on what level of actual revenue versus projected revenue a small business should have to be credible before going on the show. Other metrics like number of customers or repeat customers, there's just metrics that you feel like the sharks are really looking for.
I feel like it's changed a lot since when we went on to now. So I'll just give specifics to our experience. So when we went on to the show, we had 50,000 in sales, and we asked for 150,000 to give up 25% equity. We ended up getting 150,000, giving up 35%, split between Mark and Lori. And now when I watch the show, I feel like typically companies have higher revenue, a lot higher revenue. We were season 4, so it's been some time. But I think it's all about how prepared you are and what your plan is, and that should determine what you're asking for. So I recommend that you don't use a specific, wherever you're at. But I would say if you have no sales, it's better to wait until you get some before you go onto the show, because I think that they want to have proof of concept for sure before they invest, even more so now than previously.
Yeah, the sharks are investing in you. So it's all about the way that you do, what you're bringing to the table, and that will come out in the information that you bring to the tank. Lisa and I were doers at the time. Like she was saying, we just put our head down, put our boots to the ground, and started running. So we walked into the tank with potential revenue of $300,000 for the year that we went in, which was a nice proof of concept. But I think that we could have done the same thing with $50,000 the year before. It's really about who you are, and they're investing so much in you on a professional level.
Mm-hmm. And it's combining that with the entertainment base, right? So it is a show, it is for entertainment. And so they're very interested in the backstories and how you grew your company, how it affected your family. And that was a big part of, I think, why we were interesting to go on the show for them.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question. How did the sharks support you and your company after Shark Tank? Whether they gave advice or mentorship, what was the big? Was there anything that was extraordinarily helpful in addition to the money?
Yes, we went with Mark because just during the tank experience, he was so in tune with what we were trying to do, and we knew that he wouldn't want to significantly change the mission of our company, and he really understood our manufacturing model. So we also wanted to go with Mark because he was kind of the website marketing shark. And I think that what he's done the most for us is a sounding board and encouragement to get to the next thing. So after talking with the Cuban team, we launched a section of our website that sells military spouse and veteran made items. And we've even taken that a step further into the marketplace, which includes American made items, and a portion of every sale goes towards helping a military spouse start her own business. So it's just different revenue streams, and they're always thinking that big picture and have been a big encouragement for taking us to always be looking for the next thing.
Yeah, so for us, we worked with Lori actually a lot more, I think because we were focused on jewelry, and she was more into that than Mark. But we did a pretty big business on QVC with Lori after the show, and had continued it over the past couple years, and have started to kind of phase out because it doesn't align exactly with our strategy now. But she was instrumental in helping us there, and it was a huge revenue driver for us over the years.
So for a small company, one of the questions is, how much transparency is too much? And then on the flip side of that, what qualifies as not transparent enough?
Ooh.
I'll jump in. I think that they are really smart, and they're going to get to the bottom of whatever you're trying to hide. So obviously you need to be, transparent if you're hiding some big secret or something. but I also think that you need to be smart about how you position things as well. And that all comes back to that preparation of how they could lead you down the wrong path or kind of pigeonhole you. So, I mean, that's kind of, it's a hard question to ask. I mean, obviously you want to be transparent, but you also have to be smart about, you know, what you're disclosing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, every small business has strengths and weaknesses. And so we did much like Paige and her sister did, where we knew our weaker points and how we were going to fix them. We just had an answer for them. So I think it was just more about being upfront because we knew that those were going to come up. So it's just having an answer to them. And the other thing is that one thing that really surprised me is just how much they talk amongst themselves during the tank. And so a lot of times if like we were specifically, they would kind of pop up and start answering each other's questions. And I thought that was really interesting too. So you can kind of like just let them talk sometimes.
One of the things that's really important to us at Alice is making sure that we are building a community of supportive founders. So I want to ask each of you, what is one thing that we can do as listeners to help support your business today?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think that just the community that you're establishing, I think, is extremely helpful. And just having that, like, I think, you know, Lisa or Cameron started off by saying one of the best things about Shark Tank is having that community where you can kind of reference people and also, you know, just kind of use each other to find out what's working, what's not working. And I think that, you know, what your platform is doing is awesome to do just that, is create a community to help entrepreneurs. I mean, we all have the same struggles as you're growing a company. I think they're very similar. So just having, you know, a soundboard to see where people get through those challenges and how they got through them, you know, can really help maybe you. So I think it's a great platform to help entrepreneurs.
You know, I'd say both businesses here today have a very similar mission, and it's about the modern day woman and where she is in her life and figuring out what it is that needs to help her be capable to meet that mission that she's in right now. And so when a customer picks up an Riveter handbag, it's about knowing that you're picking up a whole community of individuals that are all across the country with completely different backgrounds, but are all working towards a similar goal. And so I would say in your businesses, it's about continuing to carry that forward. I had my first mentor sit me down when I first started my first business, and he said, you know, I don't want anything out of this. I just, at some point in your career, if you're able to turn around and help another business owner, that's really what makes small business in America so amazing. And so I know that you all own your own businesses. And so in the future, just try and keep that in mind is when you help someone else, it really does come back, you know, 100 times over.
How does one apply to become a Riveter? Great question from Abe.
ourriveter.com. There's a link at the bottom that says join our team.
Great. And then where can we find your products? ourriveter.com. Okay, what about you?
StellaValle.com, or just looking on our website, we have our retailers on there listed around the country.
Great. And then for all of you and everybody listening, we do have on everybody's profile on Alice, and it's totally free to set up. There is a little need a hand section. And so if there's ever anything that you'll need help with, we do browse those regularly, and also everybody on the platform. So if there's ever anything that you need help with, just drop it in there and we'll do our best to help you out there and use the community to do that. And then also on Twitter, just at Hello Alice. If you just drop a question in, we always work to get answers to those questions. So I want to make sure that we're continuing to support you all as you grow and progress, and also leveraging this entire community of founders to help do that. So in closing, I just want to say thank you so much. I really admire what all of you are doing with your companies. And why don't we close it out by just sharing the best piece of advice you've ever heard in growing your company? Cameron, we'll start with you.
That is this question is so hard. I would say, it's actually what we started with. It's just go with your gut. There's always going to be things where you are challenging the status quo, you're breaking the rules. Maybe you need to follow the rules. Maybe you need to learn what the rules are in a lot of our history to be able to break the rules. But I would just say go with your gut, be confident in what you feel is the right answer, and never stop learning.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Paige?
I think for us, I wish having the knowledge that I have now, if I could start all over, just developing that plan, that business model, and really sticking to it. Know who you are, what you want to be as a long-term company, and just keeping your eye and focus on that long-term goal and don't deviate from it. Obviously, you have to be flexible and make adjustments and evaluate, how it's going, but don't change, the direction based on feedback you're getting or that type of thing, because people are always going to have opinions, and you got to take them in and kind of evaluate them and see if it's right for you.
For me, I would say that there is no such thing as balance in small business, but there is boundaries, and that applies from having a family and running a business to trying to balance everything within a business. And so just try and make sure that you create boundaries for yourself so you don't get overwhelmed. And especially just kind of like what Paige is saying, is so many different things come at you as a small business owner, and you want to take advantage of all those opportunities. But sometimes doing too much can actually be your worst enemy. So stick to doing things specifically and stay on a straight path.
Great. Well, thank you three so much. This has been really, really insightful and helpful. And just as a reminder to everybody, we will be sharing this for anyone who missed it or anyone who wants to go back and catch up on something they may have heard. And then we'll also be sharing a collection on resources that will help you prepare your own pitch for Shark Tank. Thanks to all. It was great getting to chat with everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.